helping taxpayers with IRS problems reclaim their lives and their financial stability. Now, here's your host of the IRS Solution Attorney Show, Darrin T. Mish.
Welcome to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. This is the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish. I'm doing a little sideline today. I'm trying to get some technical stuff to work on social media, Facebook Live and whatnot. And that's why there was a little bit of a delay. How you doing, Katrina?
I'm doing great. I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. That brings the most apparently today with my Android phone. I'm just saying.
So we're trying to get show audio into our Facebook Live stream, which has been sort of like the holy grail for me for a while now. And because, on the iPhone 7s, they don't have a traditional headphone jack anymore.
It's just so screwy to me.
Yeah, they have just like the lightning jack thing, and it's really been a technological challenge. And finally, I broke down today, and I'm like, okay, fine, let's let the Android do it. If the Android can do it, let's just use that. I don't have to be like, Apple-centric and stuff.
This is the great debate in our office, I'm just saying.
So anyway, we think, running Facebook Live with the show audio. If you don't know what we're talking about, here's what we're talking about is typically on our Facebook live stream, we're just using the phone microphone to pick up what Katrina and I are saying, which is really the most important part of the show, right? But anyway, that was a little dig at Pat.
But you want to hear it crisp and clear.
That's true.
Like
the people on Facebook Live have been deprived of Pat George's witticisms and sarcastic remarks, and
so they can't hear all his little
my Dennis the Menace humor.
Yes, that is spot on.
And so I get some feedback from people who listen to the show, and they say that they like Pat George. So I didn't want to deprive them on the podcast.
So we don't want our people listening to do it. So Pat, can you go to the IRS Solution Attorney Show on Facebook? See if we're sideways or we're straight up and down.
Okay. So there's if you're driving, don't do it. If you're a passenger, go ahead.
You can call if you have Bluetooth. 888-404-1010.
Anyway, the topic of the show today is not how to get show audio into your iPhone.
It's all about Darrin's tractor.
Because apparently it's impossible to get the show audio into an iPhone, even with an iRig, an iRig 2, an iRig
perfect,
HD2.
Heather? Is that what you're saying? It's perfect? We're getting some notes.
Wow.
Pat George, we got a thumbs up.
That's fabulous.
Yay,
all right.
Let's go, Android.
And the irony is we're using the old device that I've had, for years to get it into the Android.
And the new device
not the new device that I just bought, which is apparently going back to Amazon now. But anyway, the topic of today's show is something that's near and dear to my heart because it's scary for folks. It's what do I do if an IRS employee shows up at my door? And I think that's important.
Run. Just kidding.
Okay, that's Katrina's non-legal advice is slam the door and run. Because they've obviously shown up to throw you in jail, right?
Maybe. I don't know. You never know. We talked about the one show with the gold badges and the guns.
Well, we're going to talk about that again today, a little bit later in the show. The folks that come from the IRS with gold badges and guns, that is a little bit more serious.
In all seriousness aside, I joke about this, but I really did have an IRS person come to my door one day. I really did.
So tell us the story.
Oh, God, it brings back bad memories. But anyway.
She's traumatized. She has PTSD.
Well, I was, I was pregnant with my oldest daughter, which she's now 17, but I was pregnant at that time. So this is 18 years ago. And I had a not so nice partner at that time. Okay. And a bookkeeper that kind of got ran off. Long story short, we owed the IRS a lot of payroll taxes, and I didn't know, and that's why she was there. So here I am, probably, 7, 8, 9 months pregnant. Belly way out to here, and I had this female IRS lady that came to my office door, and at first I thought, what? Is this real? I was thinking it was a scam or something.
You were thinking it was a scam before we knew that there were such scams, right?
Well, it just seemed weird.
Yeah.
It just seemed off.
Yeah, one of the things that's sort of interesting is the IRS won't typically call you until they've made first contact with you, right? So what they do is they send you letters, and they send you letters, and they send you letters, and then eventually, instead of calling you or trying to call you, they just go ahead and show up.
Which, again, my partner intercepted all the letters. I never saw any of those.
Well, what happens a lot, especially in Florida, is we're such a transient population, right, that the IRS sends the letters to your last known address. Well, what's your last known address in IRS land? Well, it's the address on your last filed tax return. Well, I think we've already settled through a couple of years of shows that my clients typically don't file tax returns, or at least haven't filed tax returns in quite a while.
And their addresses are like several addresses later.
Yeah, so their last address is in Indiana or Michigan or New York or New Jersey or wherever they came from. Or heck, it could be, 5 miles from here, from where they live now. It's just people move around a lot more in Florida than they do in other states. So that's one of the challenges that the IRS has in tracking people down. But they're pretty good at it.
Speaking of addresses and moving, my address on my tax return actually changed last year. And I got this letter. I actually was asking my CPA about that this morning before we came on the air. I said, I got this weird letter from the IRS. I probably should have brought it to you. I didn't think about it. But I got this letter saying something about my address changing. I'm like, do I need to do anything with this?
And the answer is, well, did you change your address?
Yeah, I did.
If yes, then no, there's nothing to worry about. If you did not change your address, then
I'm sure that ties in, though, somehow to what we're talking about, right?
We can make anything tie into anything if you really want to, but not really.
But I mean, is that normal? The IRS always sends you a letter when your address changes? Is that to prevent that fraud?
Yeah, it's to try to prevent people from changing your address without you knowing, because then that's the part of the game, is then they're going to direct the refund check to the new address, and then they're going to take the refund check and cash it, And so that's part of the IRS's very low-tech method.
I've never seen it before, but I could see where it might be effective.
Yeah, what seems to happen in my with me is I have a variety of entities and a bunch of tax returns that have to get filed, and it seems like we alternate years. Okay, well, this year we're going to use this address, and this year we're going to use that address.
What?
And really what's happening is I'm trying to direct everything to post office boxes, so that because the mail's more secure and whatnot like that. And sometimes the tax preparers, usually that work for me, put the street address on there, and I don't want the street address on there because it's not secure. The mail comes later in the day and things like that. So there's another little trick, since we're talking about what to do if an IRS employee
I was going to say, how does that work if you got a PO box on your tax return?
If you use a PO box on your tax return, it's going to short circuit a little bit whether a revenue officer shows up at your door or not, because the first option is not going to be just look at the address, right? They're not going to go to the post office and stake it out and make sure.
They're just going to wait for you to show up.
No, what they're going to do is they're probably going to use a commercial skip tracing program, and they're going to find out where you are now. Yeah. And I think that's what they do, is they run skip tracing software to find out where you are.
Well, I think if you have a PO box, you have to give them a real address, right? Or a home address or something.
Yeah, you have to give them a address, and you have to give them ID and stuff like that. So it's not like the be all end all to keep the IRS from showing up at your door. The best way to make sure that the IRS doesn't show up at your door is
to actually pay your taxes, maybe.
Ding, 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 ding. Make sure that you don't owe them any money. If you don't owe any money, there's really no reason for them to show up.
And if you owe them some money, call Darrin and he'll help you get that thing.
If you owe them some money, you just want to go ahead and set your mind to, resolving it, figuring out. Take one step. Take a step today.
And if that problem is so big you have no idea where to start, you can call 888-GET-MISH. That's where Darrin comes in.
Take one step today and then take another step tomorrow, and just set the goal of, I'm going to deal with this. And if you don't know what to do, then visit my website at getirshelp.com. And there are hundreds of pages and hundreds of videos about what to do if you have an IRS problem. And if you feel like you want some help, then give us a call.
So let's talk about this. And this is totally, I'm going to get an attorney answer when I ask you this question. But you have an IRS person, they've showed up at your door, and let's say you owe taxes and now you're scared. What should you do and what should you not do? Is there anything you should not say?
Okay, here's what most people's normal reaction is. Most people think that they can talk their way out of everything.
So they just start talking and talking and talking and talking?
What they do is they say, "Oh, Mr. Revenue Officer, why don't you come on in?" And they have them sit down on their sofa, and they just talk and talk and talk, and they're going to try and talk their way out of this, and they just talk too darn much. That's what happens. So in my previous life as an attorney...
And that's why I was asking.
In my previous life as an attorney, I was actually a criminal defense attorney, and I was a public defender for a couple of years, and I've handled, thousands of criminal matters. And if I had a nickel for every time I could have won the case, but for my client talking to the police or to someone else, if they had just shut their mouth, the government would not have been able to prove the case. Period. End of story. And so we're going to apply that principle here.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, we're going to apply that principle here. And so in my perfect world, what would happen is if a revenue officer showed up at your door, you're going to say, "Oh, hello, Mr. Smith. I've been trying, I'm so glad you're here. I've been wanting to deal with this for years."
Where do we start?
You'd say, in my perfect world, you'd say, I have an attorney that I've just hired to help with this, and his name is Darrin Mish. I'm sure you're familiar with him.
I heard that guy on the radio.
Give him a call, and he'll make sure that I do everything you ask.
I haven't hired him yet, but
Now,
I'm
what I
planning
would say
to.
is, I am just stupid. Here's my attorney. Here's his card talking to him. I am stupid.
Which may not be all that hard to believe.
No, come on. All right.
When we come back, we can talk about the difference between various IRS employees who might show up at your door and how they're different and what to do differently if the various ones show
Should
up.
we tell them like what to say and what not to say? I think we should add that in there too. All right. This is the IRS Solution Attorney Show. I have no idea where we are in the show clock, but I know we'll be back in a minute.
And I am stupid.
Hi, this is Aaron Davis, owner of Hillsborough Title. Hillsborough Title is a local, family-owned title agency here in Tampa Bay. Our service, strength, and knowledge make us different. We've served Tampa Bay area for over 30 years. From Polk County to the Gulf, Pasco to Manatee, Tampa Bay, we've got you covered. Call us at 813-712-8888, 712-8888, or visit us on the web at thebesttitle.com, thebesttitle.com. That's thebesttitle.com.
I'm Katrina Madewell with Keller Williams Realty and Tampa Home Talk, and for more than 23 years, we have been helping homeowners sell. Flexible terms with the rate to sell it yourself. Let my results speak.
They were able to get us a full-price offer and a contract for our house in 9 days.
I just wanted to express my gratitude in finding a cash buyer for my property in less than 24 hours.
I'm not bragging. I'm applying for a job. I want to be your realtor. Call 813-777-1196. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report. My guest this week is former Senate Majority Leader George Mitchell. He'll be here to talk about America's new energy and environmental policy and what lies ahead. Don't miss George Mitchell this Tuesday at 7 p.m., Saturday at 2 p.m., and Sunday at 11 a.m. on the Costa Report. Right here on Money Talk, 1010 a.m. and 103.1 FM, Tampa Bay's business address.
Angry Elephant Tattoo artists are highly skilled and experienced using state-of-the-art equipment in our ultra-modern facilities. Angry Elephant Tattoos also offers piercing services in a safe, clean environment. Call us in Brandon at 813-651-1257 or in Seminole Heights at 813-837-1257. Mention this radio ad and receive 50% off of piercings or 20% off your first tattoo. While you're in, check out our smoke shop. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Angry Elephant Tattoos and visit us at angryelephanttattoos.com.
She thinks my tractor's sexy. It really turns her on.
Man, hopefully Heather is listening to the audio stream because that was for her.
Yeah, today's big announcement is...
She thinks my tractor's sexy and it's not me. It would be his wife. Just saying.
Well,
I love you, Darrin.
How
Just
can
like
you
a
not
brother.
look at that tractor and think it's just sexy? I think the tractor's sexy. Anyway, for those of you who may not know, I live on a farm. We've only lived there about 11 months, and I am tired of the manual labor that I have to do without a machine to help me. And so
And he loves to talk about chickens.
And so the big announcement today, within the studio, not on the show so far, has been that I have selected the tractor. I have made a deal with Alvy over at Grove Equipment Sales in Plant City, Florida. And Alvy sat down with me for a couple hours yesterday and
nice
really
little plug.
answered all those questions that I had, and there was a ton of them. And Alvy made me a deal that I could not refuse. And so I think we're going to take delivery of that tractor probably next week, maybe the week after. But if we do, I'll make sure to be putting some Facebook Live videos up of me tooling around. Now,
Your stream's public too, right? Your personal page is public so people can see.
Yeah, it is. Okay. And it's just because I'm pretty transparent and pretty open book. And I have an admission to make. I'm not all that manly. I got a tractor with a cab, or I'm getting a tractor with a cab and air conditioning. So
Well, I'll tell you this. You know that my husband supervises crews right at the city, and now it's considered like, I'll probably get this wrong, but long story short, the union basically can make a deal out of it because it's so hot if the air is broken in the thing.
Oh, you can't actually use the tractor really if the air's not working because now you're basically in like a you're like you're like in a sauna. It's like driving around in your car with the windows up.
You guys are the ones that said you have the CrossFit workout. Why not add the hot yoga to it?
The hot sauna aspect. Well, today's show is actually not about the tractor. It's not about anything about me, really. It's all about what to do if an IRS employee shows up at your door, and what do you do?
With a little bit of chicken talk in between.
Well, there'll be sheep and cattle showing up pretty soon, too. So there'll be announcements, big announcements here on the show from time to time throughout the year.
So we're goofing off and being silly, but before the break, we were talking about what do you do if you get an IRS person actually show up at your door, and I was asking Darrin, is there anything you should say or not say? Like, what action should you take if they show up at your door?
Well, you just have to, when you're dealing with law enforcement, and I hesitate to even call the IRS revenue officer, at least law enforcement, but when you're dealing with law enforcement, you really need to watch what you say. And we went to law school, or lawyers went to law school.
Aren't they kind of like law enforcement mixed with attorney sort of government aspect?
Yeah, I would say it's like law enforcement mixed with bureaucrat and bill collector, sort of. Yeah. So let's talk about the difference real quick between a revenue officer and a revenue agent. A revenue officer is what you're likely to have show up at your door. A revenue officer is essentially a debt collector for the government, for the IRS. They carry a plastic badge, and they do not have guns. So they do not have arrest powers. They can talk real mean to you. They're not supposed to, but they often do.
I got so lucky. That lady that I had showed up, I think she took pity on me because I was young and I was pregnant.
Yeah, and I don't want to give the impression that all revenue officers are bad or hard to deal with, because they're not. It's a continuum, just like any other aspect of society. So I've dealt with very nice, professional, polite, kind police officers, and then I've dealt with police officers who wanted to give me a 30-minute lecture for going 7 miles over the speed limit. I mean, It's all over the place, right? So it's the same thing with revenue officers. There's a lot of revenue officers here in this area that I really respect and I kind of like working with them. And when I get a case with them, we start to talk about what's been going on and stuff like that. Those are the guys that I really like to deal with. And then there's some people that work for the government as revenue officers who are just kind of hard. They're just hard to deal with. They're not really solution oriented. They're just sort of like pound the fist, pay me yesterday kind of people.
I wonder if that lady's even still around. I should probably try to see if I can find her name somewhere.
How long ago was it?
Like almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, she's probably not. And in private, we could probably hash out names and what they look like and stuff, because there was a different crop back then.
I remember she was really nice. She abated a lot of the penalties and interest. Like just on her own.
And that's unusual. So you have to remember this, and this is kind of the point of the show. The point of the show is to say, the IRS employee works for the government. The government is their client, okay? And if you don't have representation, you are representing yourself, right? And you are your client. Now, the revenue officer in that context knows a whole lot more about what's going on than you do.
Yes.
And so my advice would be, keep your mouth shut. Now, at some point, they're going to ask you to provide documentation and whatnot, and you're going to have to provide it under penalties of perjury and things like that. And that's almost unavoidable. Okay, that's going to happen. What I'm trying to say here is it shouldn't happen 5 minutes after you answer the door and you're caught unawares. Right. And the reason is you're going to have a tendency to want to try and talk your way out of it. You're going to be scared. You're going to be anxious. You're going to be nervous. And you're going to say things that are wrong, incorrect. You're just going to. Yeah. I would. If you caught me, if I'm like walking around the house in my underwear and they knock on the door and I throw some shorts on and I answer them, I got no shirt on, and I say, come on in, and we start talking about a tax problem that I had, I'm going to be a little freaked. And I even have lots of experience in this area. And so really what I'm going to reiterate what I said in case you missed it in the last segment. What I think you ought to do is, mention to them that you either have a rep, you have an attorney, a CPA, or an enrolled agent, or that you now realize the seriousness of this matter, and you're going to hire somebody.
You've been meaning to deal with it, right?
So you're going to politely decline to discuss any specifics at this point in time. I don't think you should deny that you're who you are. I think you can give them biographical stuff like, I'm that person. But I think it really should stop there until you can kind of calm down, collect your thoughts, and give accurate answers. Because that's one of the things I'm most worried about is the giving of inaccurate information or giving accurate information too soon or in a way that we can't control.
I remember asking her a lot of questions, asking her more questions than I gave her information. And I remember asking her, what happens if this doesn't get paid? I think that's what I asked her, just like a curious by nature kind of question. And I believe her answer was, Well, the way we look at it is if you don't pay it, you and your partner will levy both of your bank accounts and, do whatever we have to do to get that money.
Yeah, and your situation kind of goes a little bit beyond the scope of what we're talking about today.
Right.
You had unpaid payroll taxes, and we've done whole shows on that topic. And in a nutshell, what can happen is if there's multiple responsible people who don't pay the payroll taxes for a business, ultimately what can happen and what will happen is the IRS will assess both people, and they'll both be jointly and severally liable. So that's what Katrina's talking about in that situation. So let's talk about when a revenue officer might come out.
What one of your Facebook watchers said, the person that represents themselves is basically a fool.
Yeah, and even I've been an attorney for over 20 years, and when I have legal matters that pertain to me or my businesses, I will only handle the very most minor of things. I mean, really minor. Anything above minor, I just go get a lawyer because I understand that. And part of the reason is you just can't be objective.
Well, we've worked with a lot of attorneys, too. I think I've told you I've had attorneys on both sides of the deal where the seller's an attorney, the buyer's an attorney, and nobody's a real estate attorney, so they want to bring in more attorneys that are real estate attorneys, and sometimes those are fun, but, if you can get through that, you can get through anything.
Yeah, there's the other knock on attorneys in the business context is that they're not really usually deal makers. They're usually deal breakers. So if you're in the business context and you're trying to bring somebody in to close a business deal or a real estate deal in your case, you want to make sure that he's more about facilitating the deal and less about crushing the deal.
And here's the thing: you still have a buyer and attorney that are both sellers, and the seller wants to sell and the buyer wants to buy at the end of the day.
Yeah, so in that case, it's a little bit better, right? So, but yeah, the attorneys do have that reputation of being deal breakers. So I wanted to talk a little bit more about how you can identify if a person's a revenue officer. Number one, they're going to tell you they're a revenue officer. They're going to give you a business card with all of their contact information on it. It's going to say that they're a revenue officer. They don't carry a badge. They carry a plastic pocket commission. It's like a plastic...
Like an employee ID card?
Yeah, it's like an employee ID card that says who they are. I think it's probably a good idea in this day and time that if they are knocking on your door and you don't know who they are and they say they're from the IRS, to have them show you that through the peephole or the window or whatever, so that you're not opening the door to some stranger who's just posing as an IRS officer, revenue officer.
Or if your door is open because you're a business, probably going to walk right in.
Okay, so that's a good point. So
that's exactly what happened.
I get asked a lot of times, well, where can the IRS go in your business? What can they just go walk? Can they go back through the storeroom in the back? Well, no.
And what happens if you let them in? Are they taking a personal inventory on all your stuff?
Yeah, that's why I don't want them in your house. That's why I don't want you to invite them in and have them sit down on the sofas, because they can't help but look around your house, and what they're doing is they're doing a lifestyle audit on the fly. They're going, wow, that's a big TV. That's some
scoping
really
you
nice
out.
Stuff. Yeah,
they're looking for that office that you said you had.
They're looking for your home office, which is really like the guest bedroom.
That's another whole story in itself. We did another show on that a different day as well. All right, so you're listening to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. We will be back in just a minute. If you want to get Darrin on his off-air number, or if you have a question pertaining to an IRS matter, you can get him at 888-GET-MISH.
That's 888-438-6474.
And if you want to visit the website, it's getirshelp.com. We'll be back in just a minute.
Well, your traffic is next on Money Talk 1010 and 103.1 FM. If someone else's dog bit you and caused serious injury, pick up the phone and call the trial attorneys at Pop and Gype. Here's the number to find them, 727-461-HELP, or log on to popandgype.com. Got to thank our captain of the traffic rangers, Doo-Wop. He's out traveling the roadways for us. He said I-4 westbound around the interchange, accident off to the side, slowing you down just a little bit, but not as bad as the one he found on 275 southbound around 38th Avenue North. It's in the median. Several cars, looks like heavy damage, he said, and that one is backing you up also. Watch out around Roosevelt Boulevard near 275. A crash there. And another one on busy US 19 at Bel Air Road. This report sponsored by Shell. You deserve to be rewarded today at Shell with instant gold status. Just join the Fuel Rewards program and save on every fill every day at Shell. Join now at fuelrewards.com/gold. 79 in Tampa, 81 in St. Pete.
There's a brand new daily hour of fun and information on Money Talk 1010. Hi, this is Mason Dixon from the morning show, not only on Q105, but now a morning show on Mason Dixon Wide Open with Charlie the Sarge Oaks. And we get crazy every day from 11 to noon on our show, talking about just about anything. I want you to check us out Monday through Friday and join us for some conversation, because it's not only what's on our mind, it's what's on your mind as well. You can put your 2 cents worth in, even if it's worth way more than that. We always keep the phone lines open, 1-888-404-1010. And no subject is out of bounds. Well, you got to keep it clean. We do family stuff here. Now, Sarge and I are both motorheads, so we do car talk. We've got a special segment that runs in the show every day. So if you're into cars, we got it for you. Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Mason Dixon, Wide Open with the Sarge.
I think we got something good for everybody this month.
We got a lot of good things, and some of these leases are crazy. And when you think about the Forte, we're leasing that $199 a month here. Hey, folks, this is Billy in Carolina, and we're representing my store in Port Charlotte, my other store in Tampa here, Wesley Chapel. And I got news for you: $199 on the Forte. We're calling it Forte Frenzy Month.
That's right.
We got the Forte. We're sliding one of those huge screen TVs in, and we're giving you $500 extra. Whatever you put down $500, we'll match you with $500. We're doing an exchange rate program where we're probably saving people, I'm guessing, $700 to $900 a copy. Carolina, it goes on and on. What a time to buy, whether you shop at Facillo and Wesley Chapel, Facillo in Northport, Port Charlotte area. Sarasota County, wake up. Huge.
MSRP 18,991, 36 month, 3,000 mile lease, 10,000 miles per year, 20 cents per mile over limit, 7% tax, 0 due at signing, tax, DMV fees, dealer fees, $595 acquisition fee, and first monthly payment of $199, including payment structure, $3,500 key lease cash, $400 military rebate, and $400 college rebate applied, $400 disposition fee, $400 early termination fee, no security deposit required, offer with approved credit through Kia Motor Finance, or purchase a 2017 Kia Forte with a $3,000 factory rebate applied. Offers may not be combined. Prior sales excluded. See dealer for details. Pricing available from July 1st, 2017 through July 31st, 2017.
The MMA Talk Show is moving to Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Mark Charles and his co-hosts discuss the latest in UFC and combat sports, featuring live interviews and in-studio appearances by the biggest stars in UFC and up-and-coming pro fighters from Florida. Join Mark every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. for the MMA Talk Show. Catch the replay Thursday nights at 11. Highlights and interviews free and on demand at MMATalkshow.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter at MMA Talk Show, and follow Mark on all social medias at The Legal Man Mark.
Listen up, Tampa. This is national best-selling author Chris Hogan, and I'm excited to announce that the Smart Money Tour, featuring youth and money expert Anthony O'Neill and I, are headed your way on September 19th. At this evening event, we will walk you through the plan that has helped millions get out of debt and retire with dignity. A plan that focuses your money on what matters most. It's time to live more and worry less. Visit DaveRamsey.com, that's DaveRamsey.com, or call 888-22-PEACE to reserve your Smart Money seats today.
Welcome back to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. This is the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish.
And I'm your co-host, Katrina Madewell. Thanks for hanging with us through the break. And we have one of our live watchers.
Hold on just 1 second. I need to comment on that bumper music. I cannot let that just go. Now, there is one way, folks, that you can tell that I'm actually a pretty humble guy, because I let Pat George just play Green Acres as the bumper music, poking fun at me on my own radio show.
But if you ever watch that show and you remember the tractor and Eddie Albert, he's up there in his suit. That's Darrin Mish. He's up on that tractor in a suit and tie. It's you.
In my new tractor, I actually
can. About the cufflinks.
I will be able to actually plow and use the tractor and whatnot in a suit, because it's going to be air conditioned and heated, so it's going to be great.
Only you would think about that.
Okay, so we actually have a caller, an old friend of mine. Can we get him on there?
He's already on.
He's live.
Say hi.
Hey, Everett, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Doing awesome. So you were watching on Facebook Live, and you indicated to us that you had a revenue officer story that she showed up at your door, and you wanted to tell us all about it.
There's a little bit of feedback. Everett, there's a little bit of feedback. If you could disconnect from the Facebook audio and then come back in after you hang up.
Oh, that's a good point.
Oh, I'm already off the Facebook audio.
Okay.
So what happened?
Many moons ago, 20 years ago or so, I was a tax protester, or at least they weren't officially allowed to call me that, but that's what I did. I was a rabble-rouser with the IRS. So,
how interesting. This is one of your friends.
Yeah, they Well, he reformed. Or
He reformed you. Why am I not surprised by that, Everett?
Anyway, so that was they didn't particularly care for me. So one of the local revenue agents from the St. Pete office shows up at my house one day, and he knocks at the door. I open up the door, and I knew who he was right away because I'd been I'd done recorded meetings and all kinds of stuff with him. So as soon as I see him, just like you said, Darrin, I get this jolt of adrenaline, like, uh-oh. And
you were actually kind of accomplished at this, and it still kind of freaked you out.
Oh yeah, I was real good at it. I mean, I had them. I'd make them run for a merry chase. I had lots of people in the uncollectible file and just stymied. They would just sit and scratch their head for years, with no idea how to collect from people. So the guy shows up and he says, "Yeah, listen, I want to talk to you about some stuff." And I said, "Can I come in?" And I said, "No." And he said, "I'd like to talk to you about some stuff." I said, "I don't have anything to say to you." And he says, "Fine, whatever. Hey, can I talk to your wife?" And I said, "No, she's not available." And he looks at me and he says, "Look, I saw her in the backyard when I was pulling into the subdivision. I know she's right back there doing whatever she was doing."
Doesn't make her available.
I know she's doing whatever she was doing. And I looked at him and I said, "She's not available.
Right.
Now get off of my property before I call the police." Right? So now I'm kind of, I honestly, I was kind of putting on a front.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know you're going to call the police on the IRS. The cops are going to say, "Well, whatever, guy." But I hit him with that, and he set his jaw. You could tell he was angry, and he went and got back in his car and left.
But technically, you could, right?
I think you actually can.
Technically, he would
I actually think you can trespass a revenue officer or an IRS employee.
You certainly can. Yeah, if they don't have a warrant, you can trespass any government official if they don't have a warrant or probable cause.
Right. Once you've asked them to leave and they don't leave, then it's trespassing at that point.
Right. So yeah, it was. He shut the door, and I went. He left. I shut the door, and I went. and then that was the last I ever heard from him. I never heard from him again.
You know what I find incredibly impressive is the fact that you were on a first name basis with the revenue officer that actually showed up at your door.
Well, if you know Everett, that's not that surprising, honestly.
Yeah, well,
I've never met Everett.
That was a different day.
I'm presuming, the people listening.
Now, my advice would be slightly different. Okay, because
Darrin probably would tell you not to call the police and the revenue officer.
Well, I mean, I guess that was okay given how that conversation went, right? I mean, that seemed logical, I guess. I would say you should probably be a little bit softer than Everett was, but he had a relationship with this person already. Yeah,
there was no way this was going to be a nice interaction.
Right.
That was based on previous interactions. This was going to be contentious no matter what. So.
And the reason I say that is because if we start off super contentious, let's just say you don't know anything about this, and a revenue officer shows up at your door, and then you're really contentious, and you threaten to call the cops on them. It's kind of hard not for that contentiousness to bleed over into the rest of the case, and we don't necessarily need to make the case any harder. It's already hard, right? So
yeah, I agree with you 100%.
That's where somebody like Darrin could come in and go, "You know what? My client's an idiot. I'm really sorry. Can you work with me?" and probably get some stuff done.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it that way.
Just saying,
the way I would explain it is, you caught him unawares and he was scared, and that's just a normal human reaction. When you're scared is either to fight or flight, and he couldn't run, so he decided to fight, verbally at that point in time. But, you and I have known each other for years, and we can get this worked out. That's
so I've got a curious question for you, Everett, just because we have you on the phone, and you said in your prior life you were a tax protester of some sort. What actually got you there? Like, why, I guess, is my question. And I'm just curious because I know that there's people that listen to the show that probably want Darrin to help him that maybe are in a similar situation, and I'm just curious, what got you to that place and what made you get out of it?
What got me there was I probably, since we're on radio, should give you the answer that the IRS would prefer to hear. I'm sure that there are some people listening. There are some people from the IRS listening to the show. But what got me there really was just I just started looking into the way that the laws were enforced. And, well, you know what? Actually, I can trace it back to one particular instance, so I can give it some real clarity.
That's what I was asking for.
Yeah, I was before I became a tax protester, I was actually in the police academy to become a police officer. And there were, at the St. Petersburg All-State Center, which is the training facility for Pinellas County Police, for all the Pinellas County Police, some IRS agents, now these weren't revenue agents, these were actually revenue agents, so this is law enforcement in the IRS. But they were there training, and somebody said to them something along the lines about, and the exact conversation is, because it's been 25 years ago, but the exact conversation isn't real clear, but basically it was, how do you guys, how can you guys freeze people's bank accounts and seize their property without a judge's order, without any probable cause or anything? How can you guys do that? And one of the agents looked at him and said, well, we're allowed to do it. And they said, but shouldn't you, have to get, a judge's order or something? I mean, we're going to the police academy, so we're learning all about seizure and all this stuff, all this laws. And he said, if we had to go through all that, how could we do our job? And that just never sat right with me. It's not the United States of America protected by the Constitution, except when it comes to revenue agents. Okay. It's, you know what I mean? And that just never sat right with me. And that's like a little seed. And years later, it started sprouting and it grew, and I did. And what got me out of it is that I had a child, and it became very obvious that I was going to end up in prison or, or anything, in prison or out of the tax protesting area business movement. So I figured that better to pay the taxes and comply and do the right thing, even if I didn't agree with it. Better to just go ahead and do that and be around to raise my daughter instead of being in federal prison somewhere while she was growing up.
And there's lots of things that you and I would agree upon in terms of the unfairness of the way the current law is written and enforced and whatnot. I just go about it differently. I just go about fighting them differently than a tax protester would.
Smart way.
Yeah, I use their rules that they agree are the rules, and we just figure out a strategy using their rules that works out for the taxpayer, the taxpayer's best interests. And so it's just a little bit different. It's a different tactic, same sort of beliefs in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do it the smart way. I did it the dumb way. So, you can make a living at it safely and make a very good living and help a lot of people. And I got myself in eyeball deep in trouble. And at the end of the day, when all was said and done, didn't end up helping anybody. So you never actually went to jail over this? No, right? I never did. So see, I had a federal court judge threatened to put me in jail.
I was going to say, he got relatively close.
We talked about this, Darrin. A lot of times, how people's biggest fear is the fact that if they have unpaid taxes, they're going to go to jail. And you're listening to someone that was literally a tax protester at one point.
I was going to say, was. Please.
Yeah, he was a tax protester at one point and then kind of figured out that although he may be right and you may still have those deeply held beliefs that you're right, and I totally respect that. But the problem with having those beliefs is if you have to sacrifice everything at the altar of those beliefs, then is it really worth it? That's sort of my point.
Well, the way our society is set up, it's set up to conform with society. And if you can't do that, it's going to be really hard to fit in.
And I've had pretty good success over the years with people who have kind of seen the light, like Everett has, in terms of resolving their cases with the IRS. I've also mistakenly represented people who still want to go and still want to fight and still want to take it all the way to the Supreme Court using my time for free and things like that. And those people I can't really help because they're not really there yet, But I like to help people who've kind of, gone down the tax protester path and now see the light and want to get with me and file an offer in compromise. For example, I'm working on one right now where a really great guy, former protester, owes about $4 million. And we're in an offer right now. We're in negotiations. We got him down to about $500,000 so far from $4 million, which is really pretty good. The problem is I don't think we can cash flow the $500,000. So we have an appeal hearing next week, and we're going to see where we get on that case. But in that case, I was, I think, successful in convincing the IRS that he was actually the victim of the tax protester promoter. Hey, Everett, that's the signal for the break, and I just wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing your story with us.
And I think at some point it would be exhausting, too. Wouldn't it, Everett? It just gets exhausting to fight them all the time?
Well, yeah, they have unlimited budget, more people, bigger jails. It's ridiculous. It's not something that an individual or even a group of people can realistically do.
Hey, thanks again so much for calling, and we really appreciate it. I think it added a lot of value to the show.
Oh, for sure.
Hopefully the person listening enjoyed you too. Thanks. This is the IRS Solution Attorney Show. We'll be back in just a minute. If you want to get Darrin at his off-air number, it's 888-GET-MISH.
That's 888-438-6474, 888-GET-MISH. Visit the website at getirshelp.com or the podcast or app at IRS Solution Attorney.
We'll be back in just a minute.
Are you suffering from IRS problems? Do you owe back taxes you can't pay? Is your paycheck or bank account being levied? Or maybe you haven't filed tax returns in years and simply don't know what to do. This is Darrin T. Mish to tell you that if you're tired of IRS problems hanging over your head and are ready for a fresh start, we may be able to help. Call the law offices of Darrin T. Mish at 888-GET-MISH, 888-GET-MISH. I can help you file old tax returns, work to release tax liens or stop wage levies, even negotiate deals to pay off back taxes at a discount, sometimes for pennies on the dollar. Hey, let's face it, these days it's not hard to get into tax trouble. A divorce, failed business, health problems, you name it. The point is, IRS problems may be solved if you're willing to take the first step. Call for a free consultation at 888-GET-MISH. That's 888-438-6474. Or go to the web at getirshelp.com, because the one sure thing is, IRS problems don't solve themselves, so get Mish. 888-438-6474, Principal Office, Tampa.
Thanks for joining us on Money Talk at 1010 AM, 103.1 FM, and 99.5 FM HD2. This is Station Manager Charlie Oakes. If you have any suggestions or would like to do your own show, give me a call on my private line, 727-563-8831. Your suggestions have brought more local programming and the new FM signal. If you have an idea for a local show and would like to be part of Money Talk, call me. Money Talk is a family, and you have a vote in what the family does. Thanks for listening. 1010 AM, 103.1 FM and 99.5 FM HD2.
Angry Elephant Tattoo artists are highly skilled and experienced using state-of-the-art equipment in our ultra-modern facilities. Angry Elephant Tattoos also offers piercing services in a safe, clean environment. Call us in Brandon at 813-651-1257 or in Seminole Heights at 813-837-1257. Mention this radio ad and receive 50% off of piercings or 20% off your first tattoo. While you're in, check out our smoke shop. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Angry Elephant Tattoos and visit us at angryelephanttattoos.com.
According to Simon Sinek, modern businesses must first answer their why before they try to sell their what. In other words, your purpose is more important than your product. I'm Mark Steckman with Beasley Media Group, and this is your Money Marketing Minute. Brands like Starbucks, Tom's Shoes, and Warby Parker stand out because they've marketed their purpose so well. It represents their true identity. Anyone can sell coffee, shoes, or eyewear. That's the what. When you include the why in your marketing, you automatically define and differentiate your business from your competition. Accident, it takes a plan and consistency. For expert help marketing the why of your business, go to moneymarketingminute.com for more great tips and information that'll make you more money in 2017. This is Mark Steckman, and this has been your Money Marketing Minute.
I sat beside a man from Hollywood, California on a plane. He said he had rich and famous friends. Yeah, he liked dropping names. I said, well, how'd it do? It's good for you. I dig a lot of those actors. But son, you ain't got a thing on me. See, I got friends with tractors. They'll grow your groceries, haul a load, pull you out, then fix the road. They're good at slowing speeders down when they pass through from out of town. I'll live out.
Welcome back to the IRS Solution Attorney Show. I'm the IRS Solution Attorney, Darrin T. Mish. I would actually just sit there and listen to the rest of that song. So up to me.
I think your tractor's in this video, too. A picture of your tractor's in there. It's all glassed in and air conditioned.
I'm Katrina Madewell, and the first thought that I had is your California friends would be so proud.
Yeah, probably not. But that was a different life, a different time. And I have to say, the hook of that song was, I have friends with tractors. People who have tractors are pretty capable people, at least in terms of getting work done.
Told you my husband moved a palm tree by himself, a really big palm tree by himself with one of those.
Yeah, because he's pretty manly.
I don't know how he did it. I left and came home and literally the palm tree was moved.
Right on, Chris. Right on. That's really cool. So today's topic of the show, and we just have a few more minutes before the IRS train wreck of the week. We're talking about what do you do if an IRS employee shows up at your door. And I wanted to make this point. So far, we've been talking about the whole show. We've been talking about IRS revenue officers, and revenue officers are debt collectors. They're there to get the money. There's a different kind of category of IRS person that's completely different and much more serious. These are IRS revenue, CID agents, basically criminal investigative agents, and they're scary.
Those are the ones to be scared of.
Yeah, those are cops. Well, those are law enforcement officers that carry gold badges. They travel in pairs typically, and they carry guns. So if somebody that's from the IRS shows up at your door and there's a gun on his belt, what I want you to do is say nothing. You're already in serious trouble, and you cannot talk your way out of it. You're probably already in enough trouble that you're going to prison, so let's not add to the problem.
Like right then?
You're probably going into custody. Probably. Not always. Maybe, they might just be there to question you. They might be there to question you about somebody else. And my advice remains the same.
Don't say anything.
Don't say anything. Say, okay, I'm not the target of this investigation, I understand, but I still don't feel comfortable speaking to you without counsel. And they will immediately say, well, I certainly understand your point. What we'll do is you let us know in the next week or so who your attorney is, and we'll get this done through your attorney. And that's the way to do it, folks, because, again, when I was a criminal defense attorney, I had many, many, many cases, probably most cases, where but for my client's admissions, there would not have been any punishment at all, because it's relatively hard in a lot of cases to prove cases for the government if they don't have admissions against interest by the defendant.
Simple thing, just shut up.
Yeah, and it kind of goes true. It kind of goes the same with any time the police come to your door, really. If they come to your door and they're starting to ask you questions about anything more serious than maybe a noise complaint, or your dog's, going to the bathroom where it's not supposed to or something like that. If it's anything more serious than that, then I really don't think you should be talking to them. I have a great deal of respect for law enforcement. I have lots of friends who are cops, and they would tell you the same. That's what they teach their kids.
If those special agents are coming, typically, isn't it because you've got some embezzlement or something like that going on?
Yeah, you've got some tax evasion, tax fraud kind of issues going on, and they have caught wind of you, and you're gonna go spend some time at a federal country club, probably. But the whole point is, don't make the government's job easier. You can't. At that point, you can't talk your way out of that. Right? I mean, they've spent months, if not years, investigating your situation. They have documents. They have everything they need.
Yeah, but you should always ask who it is, because it could be the Publishers Clearinghouse at one time.
It could be with the big cardboard check.
Wow, that train came hard and fast today.
Yeah,
right through the front door.
It's about that time. It's time for the IRS train wreck of the week. This is the segment of the show, my actually favorite segment of the show, where we talk about somebody who came into the office and their situation was pretty much a train wreck. And after we worked on it, oftentimes for years, they came out smelling like a rose. This case is pretty cool. I really like this guy. He was a little bit hard to get rolling in the right direction. Took us about 3 years start to finish on this case, and I think about 2 of those years was spent with me trying to kick him in the behind to get going. But great guy. He ended up owing. He was a non-filer for a number of years, and I can't remember. I think he was a truck driver. And we ultimately ended up getting him to file the returns, or we prepared the returns for him, and he owed $129,727. Okay, about $130,000, give or take. And we filed an offer and compromise for him, and ultimately it settled for $36,021. And this is a little bit different. I never talk about this, but in this case, he was able to make those payments out over 24 months. So he's paying $1,201 a month. He can do it, just barely, but he can do it. And he's living on a mountaintop in North Carolina, and he's of retirement age now. And this is just thrilling to him. He thought that this was going to follow him all the way to the grave, and it's not. And
so I've got a curious question. Probably the answer is no, but just curious. So you know how like they've been doing the cancellation of debts on the mortgages and all that kind of stuff? When the IRS cancels out this amount of debt, can they try to retax you on that as income?
That's a cool question. That's a cool question, because if you take that cancellation of debt silly theory, right, where you really have to pay taxes on debt that you don't have to pay anymore.
It's almost 100 G's.
If you were to take that to its logical conclusion, the answer would be yes. But since we do at least have some sanity in our government and our system, the answer is no. You don't have to pay taxes on that.
So they could, but they're not doing that.
No, I don't think they could legally. But
is there anything in your paperwork that like makes sure they don't? Just curious.
No, but it's just not in keeping with the statute. So, no, you don't have to pay debt on that canceled IRS, or you don't have to pay taxes on that canceled IRS debt. But I think the best thing about my job...
I've never asked you that.
Yeah, I think the best thing about my job is calling gentlemen like this. And he was on the mountaintop in North Carolina at home, and he gets really bad cell reception. But I got to tell him... Actually, when I got on the phone, he says, "We did it." And I said, "Yes, we did."
So he knew before you called him?
Yeah,
like he just
because he gets the letter at the same time. We get the letters.
Dang, they burst your bubble.
But he knew, and no, that was fun. It was really fun, and we kind of reminisced about the challenges that we had in the case and some of the weaknesses that we had in the case that the IRS kind of never figured out, and just had a really good old time sort of celebrating. And he's going to be down here in Florida, again soon, and he's going to come by the office, and we're going to hang out and just kind of talk about how awesome it is.
Invite him on the show.
Well, actually, that's a good point.
Is he coming?
He said he wouldn't do it this week, but he potentially will do it next week.
Sweet.
So we might have him on the, on the radio next week. Yeah, we can call him whatever. He's got a real common name anyway. We'll probably call him by his real first name.
Okay, cool. Well, this was a fun off-the-fly show with one of our callers.
Yeah, I had a good time. I like talking about the real, true IRS problem stuff a lot more than I like talking about, well, this is how you can save money on your taxes. That's important and probably of broader appeal, but not as much of my expertise as just really... I'm a tax problem disaster recovery specialist.
That was a mouthful. All right, if you want Darrin, you can get him at his off-air number at 888-GET-MISH.
That's 888-438-6474.
Yeah,
Visit the website at getirshelp.com or the podcast or app at the IRS Solution Attorney on all the normal places.
And you got all kinds of goods on there. You can pop up on Facebook as well and Messenger, and he will get back to you. Thanks for joining us this week.
Don't forget the YouTube channel, 200 videos. YouTube.
Woohoo! All right, this week.
We're out.
It's the IRS guy. Quick, out the back door.
The views and opinions expressed on this program were those of Darrin Mish and Katrina Madewell and are not those of Beasley Media Group, this station, its management, or other hosts or advertisers.
Tampa Bay's business address is Money Talk 1010 AM and available on HD at 99.5 HD2. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Money Talk 1010 AM. Tampa Bay's business address.
Angry Elephant Tattoo artists are highly skilled and experienced using state-of-the-art equipment in our ultra-modern facilities. Angry Elephant Tattoos also offers piercing services in a safe, clean environment. Call us in Brandon at 813-651-1257 or in Seminole Heights at 813-837-1257. Mention this radio ad and receive 50% off of piercings or 20% off your first tattoo. While you're in, check out our smoke shop. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Angry Elephant Tattoos and visit us at angryelephanttattoos.com.
Thanks for joining us on Money Talk, 1010 on the AM dial, 103.1 on the FM dial, and 99.5 FM HD2.